Welcome to the CX Sessions from the Customer Experience Innovation Institute. Every episode, we provide an innovative perspective on customer experience from the people who are changing your world, one experience at a time.
Welcome back to CX Sessions from Melbourne, Australia. I'm your host, Simon Chris, and joining me today from the amazing city, my second home, Hong Kong, is Linjo Oommen. Linjo, welcome to CX Sessions.
Thank you very much, Simon. Excited to be here and talking to you today.
Yeah, you and I have followed similar tracks and crossed over companies so many times. We both worked for HSBC. We both worked for Cathay Pacific. We're both, it's a funny kind of story, really. But it's great to get a chance to talk to you. Could you tell the listeners a little about yourself, your background, and a little bit about your current role?
Absolutely, Simon. So again, thanks for having me on your podcast. I'm currently working with Cathay Pacific as a global head of contact centers. So I'm ultimately responsible for the overall strategy and managing the operations for our contact center networks globally.
Mm-hmm.
So this is quite an exciting role that I really enjoy coming into work for every day, day in, day out. Working alongside a very talented team and in a very dynamic industry that really matters to our customers. So that's largely my current role. I've been in the CX slash contact center industry for last couple of decades, but happy to share more on that.
Yeah, please. What types of things have you done?
Yeah, I mean, I have been. I'm one of those individuals who considers that I entered the CX space quite accidentally. I was studying for chartered accountancy in India when the BPO boom sort of allured me towards raising my hand, getting into the BPO industry for a while. The idea was to make some money for the next 6 months and exit back to the accounting world. But that 6 months became 6 years, and now it's over 20 years that I've been with the industry. It's been an amazing journey for me personally, and it's been a great learning opportunity. I've done a number of different roles while staying associated with the overall contact center channel in transformation, learning and development, in business management, and a few roles now as regional head and global head of contact centers. So I'm really excited to continue down this path as well.
Yeah, wow. And you know what? I have not had anybody on the podcast ever that said, oh, I left school and decided I was going to be in CX, or I left schools and decided I was going to be in call centers. Every single one of us somewhere along the line tripped over something, or I call it the open door policy. You walk past your boss's open door and he said, hey, I need a contact center manager. And you kind of wound up there. So, and what do you, how do you think about CX? What is, where does it start and where does it finish? Because it's quite complicated for an airline, is it not?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it is quite complex for airlines. If you look at, I mean, I would say it's quite complicated for the travel industry, but airlines particularly have it quite tough. As an example, we are impacted by disruption quite a bit. We call it irregular operations, and that can happen due to internal factors like mechanical failure or external factors, inclement weather, geopolitical tensions. And all of these have quite a deep connotation for our customers. For them, this essentially means that they're missing a wedding or a family reunion, or they're not able to attend a job interview. So one of the biggest focus areas for us is to try and take care of a distressed passenger or customer, the same way that you would take care of a customer who has got 6 months to plan his itinerary. So that's really something that we focus on quite a bit. So what's black swan events for other industries is BAU for us. For me, really, CX is all about allowing customers to do what they want, whatever they want to do, fulfill their needs at the leisure of their time through a channel of their choice. So that will be my definition of what CX is or what customer experience is.
Yeah, and if I can double click on the channels, you have launched quite a few, right?
Absolutely. So we offer omni-channel experience to our customers, and yeah, we're present in most of the popular channels that our customers would end up using.
Yeah, I personally have chatted with agents via WhatsApp multiple times. I love it because I can come
Excellent.
back to it and go to it, around meetings and when I want, rather than having to be
Exactly.
tied up on a phone call.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the asynchronous channels, right? You can start a conversation, go off doing about your chores, and you can come back to that same conversation and continue to fulfill your need.
And are some of those channels geographic in nature? Like I know everyone in Japan uses Line, everyone in Korea uses Kakao, WeChat in China. Is that what you're finding? And are you present in all of those, or have you just selected two or three of the bigger?
Well, we are present in most of these key social media, social messaging channels, and you're right. It's geopolitical, which drives the customer behavior. Our customers in mainland China prefer WeChat as
Mhm.
compared to customers elsewhere who prefer to chat on WhatsApp, as an example. So yeah, there are geopolitical or geographical preferences rather that drive some of this channel strategy.
Yeah. And your CX, I mean, I know your contact centers, but it reaches so much further because a lot of I think airlines are interesting because a lot of your CX is not under your control. So, like you said, events that happen, that a volcano or a war or something, you can't control that. But where people buy their ticket, if they buy it from a travel agent, you can't control that how that interaction went. And then it's the silly little things like I'm waiting for my bag at Melbourne Airport and it comes out and the handle's broken off and the zip's half open. That was the baggage handlers that Melbourne Airport employs. That's not a Cathay Pacific thing. How do you kind of manage that kind of customer experience from an end-to-end perspective when you don't own all of it?
I think this is a predicament that most contact center heads would face, right? So if you're in a bank, you don't control how the cards were embossed, or were they embossed with a different name and delivered to a wrong address. So it's very important to sort of define what do you really control. You control the experience through the touch points that you manage. So really, it's about making it easy for customers to get done whatever they want to get done. So there are connotations in terms of how do you capacitize your contact centers to be able to answer calls within a reasonable time. So that's very important. At the second level, of priority, how do we make it easy for our customers? So sometimes, as an example, we make the IVR menus quite complex for customers, as a result of which they get frustrated, and they find it very difficult to get connected to an advisor when they really need a human assistant, really need human assistance. And then right at the top of the pyramid for me is really making that experience enjoyable. Yes, you lost your baggage, but how do we ensure that we sort of take control of the challenge that the customer is facing and work with whoever we need to work with, own that issue and deliver an outcome which is acceptable for our customers. So yes, you're right. I mean, it's a predicament that most contact center heads would face,
Yep.
but then it's important to stay in control of what you can control, and still try and deliver a great outcome for the customers.
Yeah, great answer. So
Great
let's
answer.
change gears a little, and I'd love to know what you're seeing as challenges, either broad CX or just within contact center. And I want to frame that in the lens of you being such a global citizen and running a global business. You have contact centers all over the world, the Americas and Europe and beyond, in China and everything. What are you seeing? Are there across the board issues? Are there issues just affecting one side or another? What are you seeing as challenges?
Sure, Simon. So I'll probably provide a more sort of generic response to this question, not necessarily something that I'm facing in my current role.
Yep.
But if you start at a more macro, broader level, view, I think somewhere down the lane we've lost the customer perspective in the CX discussions, in the customer experience discussions. If you look at most of the conferences, the agenda is set by either consultants or the technology companies, and I don't have a problem with either of those groups. I personally believe that they have a very, very important and constructive role to play in sort of elevating customer experience across industries. But the fact that the agenda is sort of dictated based on how cool a certain technology is, sometimes we fail to define how that technology will address a customer use case or a customer challenge. So it's important to sort of bring customer back into the perspective and look at, okay, what are the technologies available? How do we improve processes to meet the customer demand, the customer expectations? The other key challenge that I find, and this is probably true across industries, is that there is a significant delta between the investment that's going on the digital channels vis-a-vis human-assisted channels or contact centers. If you take live chat as an example, you'll remember most of the business cases globally were based on improvement in the concurrency rate, how you could serve multiple customers at the same time. But I don't believe the advisor or the agent end of the challenges have been thought through, or any technological advancements made to address their problems.
I agree.
All of this then leads to challenges around people find their job roles and expectations a lot more complex than it was, let's say, a decade ago. And as a result of which, and due to many other factors, talent acquisition and retention in many of the markets that we operate our contact centers in have been difficult. So those are some of the broad level challenges that I think would be applicable for people across industries.
Yeah, and you make a really good point about the changing nature of the role of a frontline agent. I think customers are becoming more informed. Customers have tools at their fingertips that they're using, be that, a ChatGPT, a Perplexity, or God, just Google. They can search out a whole lot more, and sometimes they know more than you do, type of thing. Exactly. But the other thing is, as these technologies take away the simple stuff, and this is always a warning around AI, is that if today 7 out of 10 calls are, where are the toilets in Heathrow Airport? In the future, all of those calls go away. And so instead of 3 out of 10 being big, meaty, beefy calls, 10 out of 10 are going to be that. And that's actually going to mean lower productivity, because you're going to have to give your agents more breaks, treat them differently, blah, blah, blah. So I think you're really onto something there with the changing nature of the agent role. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm personally of the view that we are at an inflection point now where many of the traditional metrics or practices that we followed in contact centers may have already become irrelevant.
Absolutely agree.
Let's take average speed of answer or service level goals or abandonment rate goals. We can't treat every customer the same way now. A customer who is calling to report their card lost, or someone who's stranded at the airport, needs to be answered a lot faster than someone who has, is planning their travel, a few months out. So that's a challenge. Occupancy, which is basically a measure of how busy our frontline teams are in contact centers. We've historically applied a pretty high threshold of 85% in some cases. I think that's personally, I feel that's irrelevant. The job is a lot more demanding. It's a lot more complex. They need to stay ahead of, what customers know. So it's quite demanding on them. So that's another metric which I personally find, goes out of the window fairly soon. Average handling time is another one, which again,
Absolutely.
historically there's been a lot of focus on a number. That's that's no longer relevant. So yeah, you're spot on. We have to change with the way the customer experience landscape is changing.
Yeah, and that is music to my ears. I love talking to a fellow practitioner that's not, 3 minutes into the role. You've been around the industry. Saying that a lot of and I agree. I think we measure way too many things in contact centers. And B, I think we just measure because we can, not because it's a useful number that's actually going to drive, as soon as I've always said, as soon as you tell an agent this is your average handling time and your pay is linked to it, they're going to do what they have to do to get the maximum pay. And if that means they have to short shank a call and hang up on a customer, they're going to do it, and just hope they don't get caught. So I think it kind of drives the wrong behavior. And I think you're right in that, some customers, if I'm trapped at an airport, I actually want a 1-minute phone call because I want to get on that call. You tell me what my resolution is, and I start heading to that gate. But if I'm 3 months out, maybe I do want to have a 10-minute conversation about the best route to get to Vienna or, whatever that is. So yeah, good points. What about if I asked you to look into your crystal ball, and kind of, give a bit of a view, Linjo's view of the future? Where does the future go with contact centers?
Wow, that I should have anticipated that question. But look, I mean, I'm happy to share where I think customer experience is heading or contact centers are heading.
Yeah.
I Let me start with what I don't believe in. So I don't believe in the fact that contact centers are dead or are going to die anytime soon. I think human-assisted channels will continue to thrive, albeit in a slightly different form, slightly different size. But the need for human connection is not going away anytime soon. Most of the statistics and research point towards that direction, that people still want that connection.
Yeah.
That said, at the same time, I expect the fulfillment capabilities on the digital ecosystem or even third-party ecosystem aggregator sites are going to get better and better. Customers would be able to fulfill more of their demands, their needs through the digital channel, which essentially places a lot more complexity on the human-assisted channels. Now you need to know what was the journey the customer started with, where did they fall out, and why did they fall out, and how do we pick the conversation up from there? So certainly a lot more work to be done from a contact center perspective. I also believe that we are heading gradually into the era of hyper personalization, and this would mean different things for different segment of customers, right? For the premium customers, whether you are a high net worth banking customer or a top tier membership, top tier member in a loyalty program, your expectation of personalization and servicing is going to be very different to someone who's just shopping around or shopping around for the second time. So hyper personalization is going to be a trend that we need to watch out for. Proactive servicing is another huge area. It's a revenue opportunity for organizations to look at where in the digital funnel are people falling off on revenue journeys. And it's a great opportunity for us to also look at what are the areas where we are not servicing customers well today. As an example, if we know someone is going to be disrupted, should we proactively reach out to them, sort out the travel plans for them, or should we wait for them to contact us? So those are some of the areas which I think we'll need to, as practitioners, we'll need to spend a fair bit of our time sort of defining the future. So yeah, one size would not fit all. So each organization will need to rethink their servicing strategy, come up with their blue ocean sort of strategy where they can win.
Yeah, that's I couldn't agree more with all of your points. And as a continuing diamond flyer with Cathay Pacific. I've been a diamond for many years. I love flying with the airline. I get a feeling that hyper personalization is already starting. I kind of feel like that's the way it is for me. But look, this has been a great chat. I have 3 questions that I love to ask everybody who comes on this show, and I'll rapid fire them at you. What makes a great customer experience for you? When Linjo's out walking the streets of Hong Kong, I don't know, you're in Lan Kwai Fong, you're in Wan Chai, wherever you are, and you're doing whatever it is you do, what makes a great experience for you personally?
Great question, Simon. So I would probably respond to that from wearing my contact center hat on. So what would make a great experience for me is when my stated needs are met and my unstated needs are also understood and met. Stated needs are quite easy to be met. I come in with a specific reason for why I'm contacting the contact center, so that's taken care of. But I would love to have a great conversation. I would love to be treated respectfully. I would love to be treated as another human being. So that'll kind of define a great experience for me.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I look forward for.
No, that's good. It's different for every person. As you said before, hyper personalization. This is different for every person.
Exactly.
If you could go back in time to your younger self, which, clearly wasn't that many years ago, but if you went back to your younger self, to give yourself some great advice, either about your career or about customer experience, what would that advice be?
That's a tricky one. And personally, I think I draw a lot of gratification from the journey that I've had for the last couple of decades. But if I were to do something differently, I would probably gain a bit more experience across various industries. So I spent a fair bit of my time in financial services, which was great. Now I'm working with an airline, with a premium airline, which is doing fantastic work in the customer experience space. I think I would have been better off with some more experiences across various other industries.
Okay, all right. I thought your advice might have been, don't bother studying accounting because you're just going to wind up in customer experience. Yeah.
Don't let my mother hear that.
Yeah. The third question is, what book are you reading, or what podcast are you listening to, or even what TV show are you watching? What's influencing Linjo right now?
Great question again. So I'm not very into podcasts. So I'm still old school. I still like to go to a bookstore, pick up a book, and I'm not into ebooks either. So old school. So the book that I'm reading right now, I'm near about to finish. That book is Blue Ocean Strategy, and that talks about how you can reinvent and create uncharted markets, rather than just always trying to catch up with the competition. So that has had a huge influence on the way I think and the way I strategize for my team, for my organization.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great. Well, Linjo, this has been wonderful spending half an hour with you. Time has just flown. I'm sure there's a ton more we could talk about, but thank you for being a part of CX Sessions.
Thank you very much, Simon, for inviting me over. It's been fun talking to you.
Great. We'll chat soon.
Chat soon.
That's it for this session. Let us know what you think or recommend someone for a future session at cxii.com.au. This podcast is brought to you by the Customer Experience Innovation Institute. Thanks for joining us, and tune in again soon to hear more CX sessions.